this is an explanation of the painting one final called the Art History Mashup. I'm going to take over your screen and show you a couple examples and give you some guidelines of how this project will work. So this is the assignment post on Teams. And so I'm going to go over a couple of the directions with you before we look some examples. So obviously you're going to want to review all these things on your own, but I am going to kind of go over them with you. The point of this assignment is we're going to take 3 works of art. 2 of them at least have to be famous works of art, and they could be painting, sculpture, whatever. But yours is going to be a painting combining all 3 of these artworks in an interesting way that takes fragments of them or portions of them and kind of forces them to live together in this art history stew, or this remix. Okay, one artwork that you're going to choose is an artwork from art history that you absolutely love. The second artwork that you choose is going to be an artwork from art history that you really don't like, or kind of feel like you need to be convinced to like, you're not a big fan of. The third one is kind of a free choice of your own. It could be another art history artwork from art history that you really enjoy or don't like or whatever, or it can just be of a contemporary artist that you just found on Instagram that isn't even that famous. It just happens to be an image that speaks to you. Okay, so it's your choice on the third one, whether it is a notable artist from art history or just something that you've seen before that you like. And we're basically going to combine those images together into a new image, a new composition. And we're going to look at some examples of that here in a second. Okay, so we're going to look at all the requirements. We're going to make sure we take some notes while we research and brainstorm any notes and brainstorming and sketches that you make. You're going to want to upload those with this post before you turn it in. So we only have a couple days to do this. What you're really trying to do is make a decision about all 3 artworks. You're going to find pictures of those online. You're going to save those pictures. Those pictures you're going to add to this assignment so that I at least know what it is that you're looking at for your final project. This is kind of part of your proposal. There's a Word document down here that I'll click on in a second to show you. You're going to type right on this Word document, and that's going to be your proposal of what 3 artworks that you're going to be looking at. There's also some other resources down here that will give you some ideas as to what artists you can look up. And so there's also, if you're not sure how to combine these, or we can shuffle them around and just kind of combine them in an interesting composition, or you can piece them together to tell a story or to have a theme. So let's look at some of these things here below. So the first thing we're going to look at is just this is just a PowerPoint just showing you some examples of some other students in the past that have done this project. And so I'll just kind of give you a feel for that. If you were, you may have seen this already with me, but if not, hopefully this helps. So again, you're choosing 2 famous artworks from art history, one that you love, one that you hate. You're going to choose a third art image of your choice from any source. You're going to create a mashup of all 3 artworks by deconstructing or reconstructing using imagery from all 3 works to make a full color painting, remixing, combining images from each one. So here's an example of 3 artists that were combined. These are famous artists that were combined to create another work. You can see this student example here. And this is an example of her kind of presenting the work in the front of the room. Here are another 3 artworks that another student chose, very different from each other, to combine to create a new image. These are another 3 famous artworks, Van Gogh, Warhol, and Banksy here, that were combined by another student. And they're just kind of forced to live together. And the artist didn't really add that much to it other than just fragments of the work. There are a couple other things that they added, but they go along with that style and theme. So these are 3 artworks that I'm sure you've seen before. And this is the student's way of combining those together. And this is some source material that another artist used to combine. These a lot of these all kind of have a similar surreal vibe to them, just like these have these both kind of have a pop art vibe to them. Okay, and these are all impressionist work that a student chose to combine. Now this isn't a real creative combination, but they basically took a little cross section of each one and created like a 3-panel work. Okay, now these are 3 very different artworks that this artist combined. So hopefully you're getting the idea. And they chose one that they really liked, one that they didn't like. And here at the end, I mean, you probably can't even tell which one they liked and which one they didn't, because they combined them in such a way that was interesting, that kind of made them like all 3. Another 3 works that this is kind of in the process of the student combining those, and she kind of like sectioned off the canvas and just did a little section of one here, another section of one there. Just kind of picked and choose sections that she wanted to. You can kind of see like this part of the vase here. Okay, and so, if we were going to do this assignment, I was going to do this assignment with you right now, I could pick, 3 famous, these are 3 famous artworks. One could be one I like, one could be one I hate, one could be one, that just another random one. This is by Picasso, this is by Stuart Davis, this is by Edward Hopper, all 3 famous artists. And I gathered a little information about each one of these artists. Okay, that's an important step. You do want to know who it is that you're researching, and in that Word document that you fill out, you're going to have to give some information about the artwork and artist that you're looking at. And finally, this is just before I actually go to make the painting. Okay, this is one way of doing this. You don't have to do it this way, but this is one way of doing it, where you could, print out copies of the artwork, cut them up, slice them up, collage them together. That's one way of kind of easily coming up with the composition. Another way would be just to be doing some sketches in your sketchbook before you begin the actual painting. Okay, so it's up to you how you plan it. I think in the end, you definitely want to have color resources to look at. We're not going to print them in color, but you could save them on a camera roll, save them on your laptop. So as you're painting, you can match up your paint color with what it is that you're creating. Okay, but planning out the composition this way isn't a bad idea before you begin it. Okay, so that's kind of the main gist of what this is all about. You saw some student examples. We're basically combining 3 artworks, one you like, one you don't like, and just another random one that is your choice. This is the proposal that you're going to be filling out. Okay, so it's really not that complicated. You're putting the artist, you're putting your name, you're putting the artist's name, the name of the painting, the year it was made. You can find all that online very easily, and make sure that your information is reliable. We don't want to just do a Google image search for Picasso and assume that everything on that search is a Picasso. You want to do your due diligence, click on links, make sure that they're from reputable sources. If it's associated with an art movement, like Picasso is usually associated with Cubism, okay? But there's other art movements that he was involved in. Salvador Dali is usually associated with Surrealism, okay? These are things you can easily find online. What are some of the characteristics of the artwork? Like in Andy Warhol, is usually pretty flat looking. There's like a dark silkscreen image over the painting. There's some underpainting going on. There's lots of bright colors. What are some of the characteristics that are in the picture that you chose? What art materials did the artist use? Again, you can find this usually if there's a picture of a famous artwork on a website like a museum. Underneath of it, it says like oil paint or silkscreen or graphite or whatever the art material was that it was made out of. And then real easy, most of these famous artists have been quoted at some time in the past, and so you can look up, quote by Andy Warhol, quote by Leonardo da Vinci, quote, and if you look up some other information or a quote by this artist, let's include that too. Okay, this is just evidence that you've actually looked into all 3 of your artists before we started the piece. Okay, artist number 2, the one you didn't like, same thing, artist name, name of the painting, year it was made, art movement, and so on, same questions. And finally, the last one. Now, if this is some Instagrammer you follow, they're really probably not part of an art movement. That's okay. If there's a style that you would call it, like, if it's a pop art style or if it's a realistic style, you can write that down, but you can leave that part blank for the 3rd one if you want. Okay, and so that's easy enough. I believe it will automatically save for you. Yeah, it should just save for you in there. And so that's part of this submission here, is that this Word document is complete and that you're hitting add work, and you're adding any pictures of your notes, you're adding any sketches, any collages, any plans that you have, so that I can okay you to move forward and make the actual finished work. Okay, so this all has to be approved before you can start the actual painting. Now, you don't need to use these theme ideas, but this is just an added resource if you're not sure what your artwork should be about, like you saw, like the Warhol cans and the Great Wave and, you know, the Obey things in the background. You know, that was kind of formed into a landscape. You don't really need to use these themes, but maybe you want to think about, you know, what themes would be good for this artwork, and you can use that for inspiration. Choosing your artists, instead of just randomly going on Google and, you know, the top 3 artists that come to your head, instead, let's look at some resource lists. So there's 144 artists on this list. A lot of them are super famous. Some of them are sort of famous. This is a great place to start. This is artists from all throughout history. If to just contemporary, newer artists, this is a list of newer artists. Okay, so you can look at either source to come up with your ideas. And I'll be talking with you and conferencing with you in the next couple of days throughout this process to make sure that you're making good choices and that you know why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, so that's it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Just want to make sure that you have a good explanation of this assignment. Take care.